Chapter 24. Why are times not laid up by the Almighty? And why do not they that know him see his days? There are that remove the landmarks. They violently take away flocks and feed them. They drive away the ass of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They turn the needy out of the way. The poor of the earth hide themselves together. Behold, as wild asses in the wilderness, they go forth to their work, seeking diligently for food. The desert yieldeth them bread for their children. They cut his provender in the field, and they despoil the vineyard of the wicked. They lie all night naked without clothing, and have no covering in cold. They are wet with the showers of the mountains, and embrace the rock for want of shelter. There are that pluck the fatherless from the breast, and take a pledge of the poor, so that they go about naked without clothing, and being hungry they carry the sheaves. They make oil within the rows of these men. They tread their winepresses and suffer thirst. From out of the populous city men groan, and soul of the wounded crieth out, yet God imputeth it not for unseemliness. These are of them that rebel against the light. They know not the ways thereof, nor abide in the paths thereof. The murderer rises with the light to kill the poor and needy, and the night he is a thief. The eye also of the adulterer waiteth for the twilight, saying, No eye shall see me. And he putteth a covering on his face. In the dark they dig through houses. They shut themselves up in the daytime. They know not the light. For the shadow of death is to all of them as the morning of. For they know the terrors of the shadow of death. He is swift upon the face of the waters. Their portion is cursed in the earth. He turneth not by the way of the vineyards. Drought and heat consume the snow waters. So doth the netherworld those that have sinned. The womb forgetteth him. The worm feedeth sweetly on him. He shall be no more remembered. And unrighteousness is broken as a tree. He devoureth the barren that beareth not, and doeth not good to the widow. He draweth away the mighty also by his power. He rises up and trusteth not in his own life, though it be given him to be in safety, whereon he resteth, yet his eyes are upon their ways. They are exalted for a little while, and they are gone, yea, they are brought low. They are gathered in as all others, and wither as the tops of the ears of corn. And if it be not so now, who will prove me a liar, and make my speech nothing worth? All right, let's go back up to verse 1. Job had started his response to Eliphaz in the last chapter, and he was telling him, he was saying, I know my complaint is bitterness, and because he's afflicted, and all these are sitting around. They ain't trying to comfort him. They're just offering more and more pain, infliction now upon Job. We'll find that they're actually inflicting their sufferings upon the inner man. But Job was saying, don't you think if anybody, well, if I knew where God was, I wouldn't just go right to him. I mean, God, he's looking for God. He's seeking God. He is trying to find God so that he can make his supplication to God for the sufferings he is currently in, this agony that his flesh is in now. We'll find out Job is the suffering servant, you might say, is a servant who's suffering, seeking to make his supplications, and those all that can witness now, they've only saying, you're a sinner, Job, you're a sinner, and you're not in obedience with God, and God's punishing you, and this is what we see, and this is what everybody else sees. But Job says, no, that's not the case. I am not. And God has done this, and for whatever reason he does it, that's his business. You see what I mean? Because God uses, there's understanding in both sides. If we look at it correctly, we see blessing and we see cursing. For we see the work of the law, we see the work of God. The law is the work of God. That was the work of God in the beginning. We're going to pick it up here in verse 1. Why are times not laid up by the Almighty? And why do not they that know him see his days? Why are periods, times, these things that go around, not laid up by the Almighty, not treasured, not stored up or set aside? We'll find out the periods of God are set in order. And why do not they that know him see his days? But why don't them that see his days? Why do those that understand God not able to see his days or recognize the period they're in? See, by having the understandings of God, seeing the lessons that God has given in the past through our forefathers, even our fathers that were before, whether they be for that transgression or whether it be for that which they've been blessed, whatever the case may be. See, to get that understanding, why don't we recognize these things that are going on today? Too, there are that remove the landmarks. They violently take away flocks and feed them. And that's why, right there, there are that remove landmarks. These things too that we set to cause us to remember these things, they take them away with their understandings, with their mouths, with their so-called knowledge. And what they do is they violently take away flocks and they feed them. They take away these flocks and they try to separate the cattle. And we're going to, just to make it plain, this cattle is us. Yeah, this cattle is us. We are the ones they seek to separate. And we're going to be talking about the wicked, because that's who does this. See, and they try to get a little flock, and they try to separate, and that's who they are. 3, they drive away the ass of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. Yes, they drive away the ass of the fatherless, and the ass of the fatherless, this child who doesn't have a greater masculine authority in his life, a father. They see the fatherless. This is because they would be that of the son of a widow or the daughter of a widow, either way. This ass, though, but that's which would help them carry their burden. See, that load which their father used to have, that would be transferred to the ass, and it would carry the load. So the ass becomes that which carries the authority. And they take the widow's ox for a pledge, and this widow's ox, well, she's the one who's lost her husband, and that what made her a widow in the first place. See, and that's she's taken away her husband, or their tender, this one who she was given as a helpmate to, even this, and her ox, or that what pulls, that what plows for her, and they take it for a pledge. And what that is that at that time that would have been a great value. This would have been, if you was a farmer, it'd be like taking your tractor. If you was a carpenter, it'd be like taking your toolbox. If you was a doctor, it'd be like taking your hospital. See, that's what it's like to take the widow's ox. But they take it to a pledge, and that's to loan you money on it. See, and they're going to charge you interest now and hold your necessaries, I'll call it, as the pledge or as the collateral for. They turn the needy out of the way. The poor of the earth hide themselves together. They turn the needy out of the way, and these, because they don't want to bring themselves into debt, and they are turned out of the way. They go from that which we'll find God had ordered that these be. There was a way to help these, but no man obeys the law. We'll find out to make sure that this is done. In the poor of the earth, they hide themselves together. They seek shelter together, and they huddle together. We find it. We see this even today. They have to live in groups because the ability to survive individually is ate up and the substance taken away. caused it to be able to people to exist like that. 5. Behold, as wild asses in the wilderness, they go forth to their work, seeking diligently for food. The desert yieldeth them bread for their children. Behold, now we can look and see, just like wild asses in the wilderness, they go forth to their work. And we can witness this, these wild asses. See, these wild asses, each one having its own authority. A wild ass would be having its own authority. It's like one who nobody rules over. It's wild, and this ass, that even that which carries this burden that's being carried, having no authority over it, in the wilderness. And the wilderness is that place where the words drive out, that place where there's no habitation. And they go forth to their work. They go forth to their work. They go forth to do this, their deeds, seeking diligently for food, and for the whole purpose, to feed themselves. The desert yielded them bread for their children. And we'll find out that barren place does yield them bread. It yields them substance, even for their children, those that come forth from them. 6. They cut his provender in the field, and they despoil the vineyard of the wicked. They cut his provender in the field, and this is going to be this one who's ruling over them. They're cutting his provender, they're cutting his fodder, they're cutting this that's going to feed his, and they despoil the vineyard of the wicked. This spoil, we'll find, I believe King James Version says here they gather for the wicked. This word is lakash, and it means to glean, to come afterwards and strip that which is left over. They're taking even that little bit that's left after the wicked have come through and took everything, and they are left with the little bit to sustain them. See, all this was for the wicked. They gathered their stuff. 7. They lie all night naked and without clothing, and have no covering in the cold. And they lay all night without clothing. They covered without their covering. See, because we'll find it was taken in pledge. It was taken. It's in collateral. It doesn't belong to them. And they have no covering in the cold, and it wasn't returned to them before the sun went down. See, that's violation of law. That's violation of law. To take the necessaries as a pledge, it would be violation. And this is the wicked that do these things. This is the wicked that do these things. And they cause people to lie in the cold, and there's no understanding in this. People don't realize what they're doing because they don't see it this way. And there's nobody teaching the law. There's nobody who has enough understanding to stand up and bring it forth. 8. They are wet with the showers of the mountains, and embrace the rock for the want of shelter. They are wet with the mountains. They are wet with the showers of the mountains. These showers of the mountains, this misting rain that comes down, we'll find in the thaw, in these clouds that form these high places. That's what a mountain always is. It's a high place, and these clouds that form, there's the confusion. And this mist that falls down out of it, wetted with this, this is not a good thing. See, they embrace the rock for the want of shelter. And this rock is that which was established. They embrace it for the want of shelter because why? They've been forced out. And this is the wicked. What's done that? They've taken that flock. See, they attempting to feed it, attempting to take care of it. We'll find out they use them. They're like slaves, and basically this would be what it's done, and it's done in a spiritual way, and it's done in a physical way as well. 9. There are that pluck the fatherless from the breast and take a pledge of the poor. There are that pluck the fatherless from the breast. Now this would be a widow who just given birth, and the fatherless is that one whose father was taken away, the mother nursing the child, and this while the child's still nursing, plucked from the breast, and going to take it now and use it as a pledge, even one of the poor, these children of the poor. We'll find out. And when the greater understanding is taken away, this is just what they do. They come in. There's no one to stand up. See, the father's taken away. No one to stand up and feed. And they come and they've took the child as a pledge. They've took the child. They've got a mortgage on the child. They're going to hold the child for the debt. 10. So that they go about naked without clothing and being hungry. They carry the sheaves. And that's what happens. They go around naked. There's no covering. They have no ability to take care of themselves no more. The son's taken away, the father's taken away, and they go about without no ability. And the hungry, these are those that are doing their work. And they carry the sheaves. They carry their load. See, they bring in that which is going to sustain them. And that's the wicked we're talking about. 11. They make oil within the rows of these men. They tread their wine presses and suffer thirst. They make oil within the rows of these men. That oil is always that which has that anointing ability. Something that has that anointing in the rows. That's the furrows. These plowed furrows. These are these things that men have made and set up. We'll find out. It's all for the purpose of wickedness. And they use people, and they think they got slaves. They think they've got some people serving them. They tread their wine presses. Their wine presses where they bring the grapes. And what they don't understand is they're treading themselves. That's the self beneath their feet. And they suffer the thirst. And they suffer for that which they tread for another. It's being treaded for them, even their self. 12. From out of the populous city men groan, and the soul of the wounded crieth out. Yet God imputeth it not for unseemliness. From out of the populous city, and that's populous city, these men groan. We hear the groans, we hear the cries for want. We hear the cries, and for that where they've been robbed. We hear the cries for that where they serve, and the toil they're caused, the burden they're put under. And the soul of the wounded crieth out. And that's the soul of the wounded. This one who's been taken advantage of. This one this has been done to. This one who's been come against. He's the one who's crying out unto God. Yet God doesn't impute it for unseemliness. And God, that's like it has no purpose. It doesn't have a reason. It doesn't have a taste. It's not for no good. See, it's not worthless. It's part of the work. 13. These are of them that rebel against the light. They know not the ways thereof, nor abide in the paths thereof. These are those that rebel against the light. To rebel against the light means to have a little bit of understanding and not want nothing to do with it, see. And those are the ones who take advantage of. They rule. They're going to be your murderers, your thieves, your adulterers, all these that work the wickedness, idolaters, teachers of ignorance. All of them are there but one kind. And they rebel against the light. They are the ones that come out of that place of understanding where we can see. They hide in the darkness, in the shadows. They're the wicked and the evil. And they know not the ways thereof, the ways of understanding. They don't abide in the paths thereof, the ways of God. See, these paths that were appointed, these paths that were lit by the understanding, they are the wicked. 14. The murderer rises with the light to kill the poor and needy, and in the night he is as a thief. The murderer This one who slays, he rises with the light. He gets up in the morning. He goes forth to that where he sees his victim, and to kill the poor and the needy, to murder, even to hunt the soul thereof. And the night is as a thief. But see, in the darkness, in the portion of that which he is just a thief, one who is trying to steal something that doesn't belong to him. 15. The eye also of the adulterer waiteth for the twilight, saying, No eye shall see me. And he putteth a covering over his face. See, in the eye, and that's the perceptions, these understandings of the adulterer. Adulterer is somebody who has, either way, it works both ways, male, female, female, male. Either way, the adulterer is someone who already has a wife and takes another, see, or has an understanding and a reflection of it in the earth, and then takes up another, see, an opposite of what they are. So if we have one understanding and we go into another, see, would be the same as being an adulterer. If we have a wife and we go to another, it is the same thing. It's an adulterer. This is the comparison between the flesh and the spirit. And he waiteth for the twilight, that moment before darkness or before light. And he says unto himself, No eye shall see me. I can't be seen now. But yet, he putteth a covering over his face. He tries to hide these things that are made plain. 16. In the dark they dig through houses, and they shut themselves up in the daytime. They know not the light. In the dark, that dark, once again, that's the negative. See, on the negative, they dig through houses, these abodes of men. They're looking for sin. They're looking for their booty. They shut themselves up in the daytime. They hide now. They hide there in the daytime, that time where they could be made plain, see. They worketh in the darkness, and they know not the light. They worketh in the negative, because they don't have no understanding of the positive. But, see, God worketh, though. God worketh, even with them does he worketh. 17. For the shadow of death is to all of them as the morning, for they know the terrors of the shadow of death. See, the shadow of death, that's the grave, is to all of them as the morning. Just like that which is going to make known, the sun coming up, it's rising, there's understanding coming forth, and they're going to be made known. See, while they're still yet stealing, robbing, pilfering, raiding in the house of God. For they know the terrors of the shadow of death. That's something everybody can recognize. 18. He is swift upon the face of the waters. Their portion is cursed in the earth. He turneth not by the way of the vineyards. He is swift upon the face of the waters, that me is made plain in understanding. And their portion, it is cursed in the earth. And that portion which they are given, see, it's cursed in the earth. It's cursed in the flesh. And that's what they are, the cursed, see. And they make themselves known. With the understanding of God, there is no darkness. See, it's done away with. Understanding goes forth, and whether they have it or not, they realize they make themselves known. They're recognized. He turneth not by the way of the vineyards, that fruitful place, but goeth on. 19. Drought and heat consume the snow waters. So doth the netherworld those that have sinned. Drought and heat. Drought and heat. That's the lack of water, drought, and the heat. That's what melts the snow. and the lack of water where the earth sucks it up, so there is none. And that's the understandings. So doth the netherworld those that have sinned. And that's what happens to the netherworld. The netherworld, that's the lower world, that lower place. If the heavens are the abode of God, or this greater understandings is where God dwells, then the earth would be the netherworld. But now if the earth is then the grave would be the netherworld. Of course, this is all but just one place. 20. The womb forgetteth him. The worm feedeth sweetly on him. He shall be no more remembered. And unrighteousness is broken as a tree. Yep, the womb forgets him. That which gave birth to him, where he came forth from, we'll find out it's the earth. He's forgot about. This worm feeds upon him, sweetly upon him. The worm is that which devoureth the residue of that the flesh, and it returns it to the earth. It works for the Lord. It devoureth the remains, and it's sweet. It's sweet to the worm. The worm enjoys it, and that's his job. And he shall be no more remembered, because that's how it works. That's the cycle. And the unrighteousness is broken as a tree, just like the mighty tree, that great thing which is exalted in the forest. It's broken, just like a great wind took it out and snapped it off like a dry twig. That's what happens to unrighteousness, the injustice. 21, it's cut off by the grave. 21, he devoureth the barren that beareth not, and doeth not good to the widow. For he devoureth the barren that beareth not. The one even it didn't bring forth is devoured. And it doeth not good to the widow, and it doesn't do no good to the widow. This one who's without her husband, this one who was given to tend, to look over, and this is a guardian understanding. Even this guardian and understanding, this is taken away. The father or the widow's husband, this one who would tend to her. In other words, you've been caused to forget. 22. He draweth away the mighty also by his power. He rises up, and he trusteth not his own life. He draws away the mighty also by his power. Because it doesn't matter how big you are. He rose up, and he trusted not in his own life. He didn't trust in his own life, we'll find out, but leaned on another. See, leaned on another. Didn't trust in his own ability, but leaned on another. And we'll find out that that's not a good thing to do, because what happens is your abilities to take care of yourself are stripped away. 23. Though it be given him to be in safety, whereon he resteth, yet his eyes are upon their ways. And though his life was given to him to be in safety, it was so he could be in strength, he could have ability, whereon he might rest, see, and to take comfort, yet his eyes are upon their ways. He wants after what they have, and these things that they do. 24. And they are exalted for a little while, and they are gone. Yea, they are brought low, they are gathered in as all others, and wither as the tops of the ears of corn. But it doesn't matter. They're only exalted for a little while. It's just a small amount of time. See, we think, oh, it's a great amount of time, it's a long time, but we're talking about on an eternal scale, not just on a measly little mortal scale of a few thousand years, and they are gone. Yea, they are brought low, and they are gathered in as all the others. Because it doesn't matter who you are. You see, you got to come to your end, and that's just the way it is. Just as the wither as the tops of the ears of corn. Just like the tops of the ears of the corn, that tip, the preface, where it's withered, we thought it was coming on good, and then at the end there, it just withers away. That corn's that harvest at the end even. 25. And if it be not so now, who will prove me a liar and make my speech nothing worth? And if it be not so now, and even now, today, who will prove me a liar? Who can prove these things to be false and make my speech nothing worth? Worth nothing. Who can make this worth nothing? Job's hit it dead on the head, see, and that's those that are caused to serve. They're caused to serve every way they can be caused to serve. They'll be caused to serve spiritually, all for another. They're being caused to serve physically, all for another. They're taken in debt. Their life, even their children, are taken for pledge. They live this way. They're caused to serve. Their abilities are taken away, and they're caused to forget the things that were done in the past. This is what's going on. It's been going on since the beginning of time, but how God's working. These are those that transgress. These are those that go against the light. They go against God's ways, and they go against God's understandings, the way He appointed. In the past He set man by. And they don't support the fatherless. They don't uphold them. They don't give to the widow. Let's see. Then they cause to continue the wickedness which they work. We're going to pick it up, though, in chapter 25. Turn and return.